Brilliant.
Thanks, Dan.
That's great news. Lovely to see so many familiar names on the screen as well. I wish I could see your faces actually. But yeah, really lovely to see so many familiar names, and I hope you're all well.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Mike. Good morning. Shall we do quick introductions and then we'll jump into the session? But lovely to see you today. So I'm Ruth, one of the co-founders of Prospect Change, and we're here today to talk about strategic change in terms of how we connect a single project and a deliverable within that project right through to a wider strategy or vision and create what we refer to, and we will talk you through shortly, the golden thread of change. So lovely to see you all. Jen, would you like to do a quick intro?
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everyone. It's really nice to see so many round circles on this screen. You'll see that we are perfectly aligned, me and Ruth, at the top with our backgrounds. I'm Jen Anderton. I'm also a co-founder of Prospect Change. We created Prospect Change in 2022. It's nice to see you all.
Thanks, Jen. And then to finish off the Prospect Change team, Dev, do you want to do quick intros?
Hi, I'm Dev, and I'm the Business and Product Support Officer at Prospect Change, and I mostly handle all the little projects that we have ongoing in the business, and I also handle the academy things that we run an academy at Bradford College, and I do support Jen with it, Jen and Ruth with it. Yeah, that's what I do.
Thanks so much, Dev. And we're thrilled to be joined as well by Ben this morning from Kivue. And Kivue manage the Perform system, but I won't say any more. Ben, over to yourself.
Yeah, hello everybody, I'm Ben. I work for Kivue and we work in partnership with Prospect Change. We're a software business and we have a tool which has been developed really to sort of simplify processes and give portfolio level visibility. So I probably won't say much more than that because at some point I will show you the tool later on, but it's really good to see everyone.
Thanks so much, Ben. Has anybody got any questions about today's session or the way that we're running it in any way before we jump straight in? Feel free to stick your hand up if you do. Oh, lovely. Well, in that case, I will share the slide. We are recording today's session, just to let you know. You'll see up at the top it is being recorded, which is why we've not got faces on there, because some people don't want to be shown. And everybody that attends today will receive a copy of the recording, so feel free to share that among colleagues and associates. And we will also talk about some free templates as well to help you on the journey when we get to that point as well. Now, this is the test. Can you see my screen okay?
We can, yeah.
You can, lovely. That's great.
Yep.
Oh, Karen, I can see your hand's gone up. Is it possible to unmute Karen at all, Dev? Oh, you're muted as well, Dev.
The time is 9:39.
Sorry. Alexa. Yeah, I can allow everyone's mic. I did allow Karen's mic, so yes, I can also allow everyone's faces to be shown, mic and video.
Lovely. Was there anything to raise, Karen? No.
Let's not worry in the chat.
Okay, lovely, perfect. Thank you very much. So welcome to the Strategic Change Masterclass. A little bit of an overview about Prospect Change so you know who we are, and then we'll jump straight into the session. So Prospect Change, founded in 2022 by myself and Jen. We're a Bradford-based business. and we support organisations in the world of PMO. Now, I think many of you on the call will probably know what PMO is, and you will have had varying experiences of PMO. But today we're going to talk about what Prospect Change advocates in terms of PMO, and particularly flies the flag for. So our mission is twofold. We support organisations in the successful delivery of projects and programmes, saving them time and money, and elevating that into the space of PMO. Now, anybody that tries to explain what PMO is, particularly if you already work in the profession, that P can be interchangeable between projects, programmes and portfolio. But the real value is realised at that portfolio space when it's connected to strategic change. But so often organisations are not realising that strategic value of a PMO, and therefore a PMO is stuck within that tactical space. And when that happens, a PMO can be perceived as bureaucratic, hindering, frustrating, and very much policing. And therefore, the second part of our mission within Prospect Change is to put PMO on the educational map. One of the reasons that we believe there is inconsistency in PMO standards is because there is no professionalisation or limited professionalisation of PMO, because there's no career path from education into employment. And therefore, individuals themselves working within PMO don't have a professional standard across the board by which to develop and measure their success. And organisations also don't have that professional standard by which to build, establish and grow their PMO. So that's the mission of Prospect Change, to get it on the map in terms of professionalisation and to bring the strategic value of PMO to organisations. Things to know about us: we are incredibly passionate advocates for transformational value that a PMO can bring to the world of change. It's instrumental. We've seen it over and over again when it's done right. It's absolutely transformative. And if you haven't heard about PMO or know what it is, you will know what it is by the end of this session. Like many of you on the call, we've been on the receiving end of change in PMO. We know what terrible looks like and we know what it feels like, but we know what great looks and feels like too, and we know how to achieve the difference between that. We're pragmatic, people-centric and determined, and that we believe all organisations have a responsibility to bridge the gap between education and employment, and we're prepared to lead the way to play our part. Since 2022 in our launch, so we were very proudly recognised as New Business of the Year within our city of Bradford in 2023. We've had the opportunity to take our consultancy services global. We've worked across Saudi and Dubai, as well as extended teams across Israel, Poland, Romania and Ireland. We've provided PMO services within both the private and public sectors, and also across charities as well. We've established ourselves as an employer partner at Bradford College, and we've delivered a pilot PMO Academy, which ended in 2023. And Dev, who introduced himself earlier, joined us as a result of that academy. He joined us as, I wanted to say associate, but you didn't join as an associate, did you?
PMO intern.
Intern, that's the word I'm looking for. You joined us as an intern, and now he's gone through further development within PMO space, and he is now our project officer internally and client-facing also. We've supported and contributed to the design of New Business T-level course at Bradford College, which launched in September 24, which means that for the first time, PMO exists within a corporate educational space for further education. So that was a massive achievement. And as part of that, we created a digital skills badge in collaboration with Skills House. We've employed 2 brilliant students from Bradford College as interns, as I mentioned, and now employees. And Deb is one, the other is Asher. You'll see Asher a lot on social media as well. And finally, we deliver a number of lectures at Bradford University to try and get it into that higher education space as well. And as mentioned, we're today joined by Ben. Prospect Change and Kivue are partners, so we partner with Kivue. We're huge advocates of the Perform system. It's a fantastic enabler of change and PMO. So really proud of our partnership with Kivue and looking forward to hearing Ben speak towards the latter part of the session today. So in terms of getting into the agenda, we are going to discuss core concepts and definitions to make sure we're all on the same page today when understanding what we're talking about. And then we will get into the detail of how to create a vision, connecting that vision to a strategy, delivering that strategy through change and projects, how the PMO is instrumental in that operating model, and then tools and technology, which is when I'll hand over to Ben. We'll talk about some summary and next steps and how we can provide you with some further processes and templates to help you on your journey. And of course, throughout the whole session today, there's an opportunity to ask questions as well. Now, the interesting thing when you work in change is the varying use of terminology. So if I said to you, what is a vision? You may all have different explanations of what a vision is, particularly if I was to ask you what is a strategy. The word strategy can be quite confusing in terms of what do we mean by strategy, and organisations will use that word with many different meanings attached. So in order to ensure we're all on the same page today, we want to bring to you the definitions that we have for each of these key words within the change operating model. And what do we mean when we say change? And what do we mean when we say projects? What do we mean when we say PMO? Because in that way, we're looking at this in a unified way, we're understanding it in a unified way, and we can see how it all connects together. Of course, when you take this back to your teams and back to your organisations, you feel free to use the terminology that better fits the culture of your organisation, as long as what you don't lose is the definition itself and the principles of that particular definition and the value of the process that sits behind it. And something just to pause on as well, which is really important and we will touch on throughout this session, is this difference between proactive change and reactive change. One of the things that we have seen has been the biggest challenges within organisations of late, particularly coming out of COVID, is the imbalance between proactive change and reactive change. So proactive change is the change that you deliver in order to achieve proactive growth. So you set yourself goals and you understand how to achieve those goals and you deliver projects in which to achieve them. Reactive change, is the change around regulatory change, for example. It's responding to economic challenges. It might be response to natural disasters, etc. So all the change that had to happen as a result of the pandemic of COVID, projects had to be stood up overnight in order to respond to that. And normally your proactive change portfolio is significantly larger with the capability of bringing in reactive change when it happens. But since COVID, we've seen that organisations are predominantly delivering reactive change because of such unstable environments across the country, but also across the world. And therefore, organisations feel like they're just treading water and not actually getting anywhere. They're running to stay still. They're on a treadmill, a hamster wheel, all these analogies we're hearing over and over again. And there's nothing we can do about that. Reactive change has to happen. But what we're advocating for here is how can you still, alongside your reactive change, create a change portfolio that is proactive in order to achieve that strategic growth. Now back to concepts and definitions. Vision. What do we mean when we say vision? And strategy. Strategic objectives. And finally, change. So what do we mean by all of these terms? A vision is an aspirational goal of an organisation. It's the place of the future that the organisation is aiming towards. Now, sometimes organisations will have a vision that is more a marketing-based vision in order to grab attention, and that's fine. But there should also be a vision that is genuinely aspirational and ultimately achievable with the right sort of change, and that vision may be a vision that remains internal. Strategy is the journey of change needed to achieve the vision. It's made up of change, programs, and projects. A strategy will often be referred to as the change map. It'll be referred to as a blueprint, but the strategy is the key elements of change that must take place at that high level in order to achieve the vision. Your strategic objectives let you know when you've reached the vision. They quantify this in a measurable format in order to track your journey of change. So you know you're on track when you achieve a strategic objective, you know you're on track to achieve the strategy and therefore achieve your vision. And you will know when you've reached your destination because of your strategic objectives. They keep you honest, they keep you true to the journey that you're delivering and stop you deviating into another area of change. And change itself is the things that need to be different to take the organisation from where it is right now to the place of the vision. This is taking the strategy and getting really into the detail of the change that needs to take place and how that change will impact the organisation and the people within it. PMO, portfolio, project, and programme. What do we mean by these terms? So a PMO. The PMO is air traffic control for change. That is the analogy that we use most often. It's a function that oversees all projects and all programmes, connects those projects and programmes to the change that they will deliver. If they deliver the change, they realise strategic objectives. In doing so, the strategy is realised and the vision is achieved and becomes the place of reality. The portfolio is what the PMO oversees. So it's the collection of projects and programmes grouped together in order to realise change. And then projects and programmes, these are your vehicles of change. The project is one singular temporary team set up to make change happen. The programme is a set of projects together in order to achieve a larger objective. Projects and programs, just bear in mind, do need a different life cycle for managing. Sometimes we can take a project life cycle, put it over a program and think it'll work, but it won't. A program does need a different project life cycle, which is why they are kept separate. Now, how do these all fit together? Up here, we have our vision, the North Star. It's a clear and inspiring picture of what an organisation aims to achieve. It needs to be long-term, ideally, and it should reflect an organisation's values and aspirations. Your strategy is a plan of action designed to achieve the organisation's vision with the change that needs to be achieved at that high level. And strategic objectives, your success factors on that journey of change. And this is how it all fits together. So we've got the vision leading down into the strategy and strategic objectives, the change needed to deliver those, your strategic delivery, the PMO that oversees, and the projects and programs. And you can see your PMO being in the middle there, oversees projects and programs and reports into change, strategy and vision. So it's reporting down to manage and reporting up in terms of progress. And running all the way through is what we refer to as our golden thread of change, connecting a single project right through to a vision. In terms of hierarchy, this is what it would look like. Your portfolio's at the bottom with various projects and programs. Your PMO sits across your strategic delivery and change, reporting into the achievement of strategic objectives and ultimately the realisation, slowly but surely, of an organisational vision. I'm just going to pause a moment, actually. Let's go back to that. It's a really good time to be talking about these sort of things because it's the new year. And I'm sure that many of us have sat down and thought about what are our goals and aspirations personally for the new year. And thinking about that really helps to bring this visual to life. So, for example, one of the things that I'm looking to achieve this year is even better work-life harmony. Running a business is intense, it's hard work, it's wonderful and it's fun, but it's full on at the same time. And it brings with it a lot of work, a lot of hours. And sometimes that work-life harmony can feel like it's shifting out of balance. So one of my personal aspirations this year is to bring that harmony, bring that work-life balance more into a harmonious coming together almost. And therefore, if I think about that, the vision being realising better work-life harmony, the strategy has to include organisational changes, business changes. And that might be operating changes. It's likely to be system and process changes. It's likely to be people changes as well. And that, achieving those will allow me then to achieve some better work-life harmony. And that could include better self-care, for example, cutting out unhealthy food, cutting out caffeine, getting out and walking in the fresh air every single day. And when I bring that strategy, I could kind of shape that into a strategy and then think about the changes that I would need to make and how would I know that I'm on track with those. So, for example, I could set myself a goal within the business to say that by March, we wanted to have implemented a new system so that when it comes to administration, communication, marketing, we have better operating processes. We are more efficient in there. We have taken away a lot of the overhead. So whereas I may have spent 4 hours on a piece of work, I'm now spending an hour on that piece of work. And if I quantify that, what I have there is a strategic objective that I'm aiming towards. I bring in that system, it then enables me to pull back a little bit in terms of the hours that I'm working. And then I could set myself a commitment that says I won't work any more than 10 hours Monday to Thursday a day, that I'll finish early on a Friday, and that I won't work on a weekend, for example. So as we're going through this, think about your most important goal for this year on a personal level. And think about how you would describe that in terms of a vision. So you imagine on the 31st of December 2025, if you've achieved it, what will that be? What is that vision? And how will you know when you're on track with that? So what are the strategic objectives that you would set yourself throughout the year to know that you're on track? And what are the changes you need to make? So for me, it would be system changes. It would be personal changes in terms of my own dedication and commitment to myself and discipline as well. And it would be people changes. Maybe there'll be some recruitment involved in order to ease the burden, etc. So have a think about the changes that you'd need to make and how you could fit that into this sort of model, because it will help to bring it to life that little bit more. But I do just want to bring you back to left field reactive change. You can't get away from that. So whilst this is very much focused on proactive change, it's about achieving a vision, achieving a strategy, that left field reactive change is never going to go away. There's always going to be some element of that when you are working within a directorate, when you're working at organisational level, whatever it might be. It could be legislative and regulatory. It could be economic, recession and inflation. Those words are getting sort of knocked around a lot at the moment. There could be technology advancements or failures, such as cyber threats or even cyber breaches or tech obsolescence. Customer demands or feedback. You might be a customer-facing organisation and a piece of feedback is received that is instrumental and you know you need to react upon. And it might be a system upgrade or a process change. And of course, we've seen a lot of this over recent years around crisis management. So natural disasters across the world, war, pandemic response, etc. These are things that you must react to and be able to absorb and bring into your change portfolio. But having an effective PMO overseeing means that you have the oversight and capability to understand the impact of bringing in your reactive change, allows you to prioritise appropriately, deprioritise some stuff, reprioritise others, and it also means you can replan your portfolio accordingly. And if that means replanning strategic objectives in order to push them out, at least you can do that in an informed and controlled way with everybody on the same page. So please don't forget about that left field reactive change that will happen. I'm going to pause there for a moment because I'm conscious there's been a lot of information before I move on to the next section. Is there any questions, any reflections, any thoughts that you would like to share? I'm not seeing any hands go up.
To talk. If anyone wants to talk, you can put your hand up and I can disable your mic.
Lovely, thanks, Dev. Don't think we're seeing any hands. Oh, there we go. Katie, please do come in.
Hello. This might be something that actually you're planning on covering later anyway, but one of the things I was really interested about was understanding how your golden thread analogy an approach works for those kind of reactive change programs. I can absolutely see how it leads through for the ones that you choose to do, but I'd like to hear more about that. That might be something that's coming up later in the session.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will come up, but I think there's more we can probably say on that now. So let me take us back to this view here. So if we put to one side the reactive change and we just think about this being proactive, and we've sat down, there's been boardroom meetings, there's been various sessions and workshops, and we've got this brilliant view here where we've got the vision, the strategic objectives, overseen by your PMO, being very clear on what's changing and how that impacts the organisation and people, and what programmes and projects will be those vehicles of change. I refer to that as actually the easy bit, because as you said, we can plan all of that out, but when it gets into the real world and problems hit, challenges hit, the unknowns raise their heads, which they will, because that's the reality of life and that's the reality of working within businesses and organisations. We have to be able to bring in and react to those either additional projects and additional programs that are your reactive change, or react to your existing projects and programs facing issues and challenges. It comes down to how much information do we have to understand that domino effect and that knock-on effect. So I'm going to use, just to bring this to life a little bit, Katie, the air traffic control analogy. Now, forgive me, because I am not an air traffic control expert. If anybody in this space is, I'm probably saying this a little bit wrong, but we'll use the analogy in order to bring it to life. So if you think of an airport and you've got hundreds of planes across a few days, some taking off, there's always planes in the sky, there's always planes landing, there's always planes on the runway preparing to take off. And that's very much like projects within an organisation. There's projects that are in flight being delivered. There's projects coming into land because they have delivered. And there's projects that are waiting, ready to take off. And if one plane gets delayed, that has a knock-on effect on the other planes on the runway. If a project gets delayed, it will have a knock-on effect because of resource constraints and budgets and costings, etc. And various dependencies across that portfolio. If a plane comes into trouble, for example, there is really bad winds and therefore they have to divert around, then that lesson can be passed on to the other planes on the runway. Same with a project. Anything that goes wrong, they can pass that learning on. Now, imagine for a second there was an emergency and they needed to get a fighter jet onto the runway and up into the sky. That fighter jet, it takes priority, just like many of our reactive changes have to take priority. Because the Air Traffic Control Centre knows exactly how many planes are in the sky and where they are. They know how many planes are on the runway and where they are in terms of their schedule. They are able to make a very quick decision in terms of what planes to divert, what planes to cancel or delay in order to get that priority fighter jet onto the runway and up into the sky. And then once everything has been delayed, pushed back, moved away, fighter jet, priority jet up in the air, they can then refer back and replan, reschedule the other planes that are on that runway. So if we take that same analogy into the world of projects, that golden thread approach and that control and oversight means that when reactive change hits left field, unexpected, there is the information and oversight right there at your fingertips to make a very quick decision in terms of what needs to be delayed, moved, or even stopped in order to get that priority reactive change onto the portfolio and in flight, basically. And then you know how to replan the other projects that have had to move and pivot around it. Does that answer the question, Katie?
I think so. I think this was driven by an experience I've had, which is you end up creating a beautiful, all the proactive change is beautiful and planned and aligns to your strategic objectives. And then something comes in from like a regulator and you just go, I'm sorry, guys, can't talk to you about, all the positives of this. It's just the regulator needs this done by next week. And sometimes I feel a bit of a loss in terms of setting that vision. and making, giving the why for people. So that's something that'll be interesting to listen out for as we go through.
Yeah, and we will talk about PMO in more detail later on, so you can see practically the tools and techniques and the tips and the processes that we suggest you follow in order to have that control and oversight. It's really disheartening. It's very disheartening when you spend time creating a vision, creating a strategy, understanding, and you feel in control, and then something comes at you left field. Because you think about all those hours you've spent and all that enthusiasm you put into creating something that now feels like it's just been knocked straight off the table. There's a cultural element to that, and how well embedded a strategic approach and a PMO and a change function is in the wider operating model of an organisation does matter in terms of how quickly something is dismissed or not. But that replanning piece is really important. And if you can convert something like this, you can convert this from a visual into a realistic set of plans that have timings against it, people against it, costings, benefits, all of that sitting behind it. It brings it to life. It's real information. So when that regulator says, we need this next week, stop all work, if that has to happen, work has to stop, and you move on to that regulatory piece. When you have delivered that, you can come back to your project and say, okay, we're not going to hit that milestone. That person hasn't been available for the last 2 weeks because we had to pull them off that project in order to do the regulatory stuff. And actually, we had to spend this amount of money on that regulatory stuff, which means we're now overspent in this particular area. You can understand the impact of having to respond to that regulatory change. And therefore, you can get everything. You can change it all. You do have to change it all. You have to change your timings. You have to change your budget. You have to change where your people are sitting. But then you reset those expectations. If it's happening continuously over and over again to the point that achieving proactive change becomes impossible, then either there's a culture shift that's needed in terms of how the operating model of change is being perceived, or there's a people challenge in terms of capacity and capability. And I don't know within your organisation where that would be, and whether there would even be the opportunity to increase people capacity within your portfolio and split it out so you have your regulatory change portfolio and your proactive change portfolio slightly separate. That could be a way to do it in order to protect your proactive change.
Thanks for that.
Hopefully it'll it'll be clearer as we work through. But Katie, more than happy as well if you'd like to take this offline and have a chat with you and just see if, get into the detail of it and see if we have any other tips and advice that are more bespoke to your organisation.
Thank you. I won't stop everybody any longer.
No, please do. Honestly, I can talk about these things all day. I love it. So please do. But I'm also conscious that I want to give advice that is really bespoke to you. So it might be if we have a chat afterwards, I can probably be even more help. Any further questions? Let's jump into vision then. So how do we create a vision?
We've got another question, Ruth, from Matthew.
Oh, go ahead, Matthew.
Apologies, I was on mute. Yeah, so you talk about your kind of vision being long term. Kind of, what do you what sort of time frame are you talking? Like the next kind of 5 years? Are you talking the next 12 months? What normally would you kind of hit because obviously aligned to your the kind of achievability of your vision, then obviously that changes. So kind of how do you see kind of vision being in terms of a time frame, because that obviously we're going to define the kind of the ambitiousness of that vision.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Some of this is culture driven in terms of how long will people stay motivated towards a vision before it's achieved. 5 years, I always think, is a really nice number. You can achieve a lot in 5 years, and it doesn't feel too far away. that people will lose motivation. So the problem with a 10-year vision is it feels so far away, it doesn't feel like a priority. That doesn't mean you can't set a 10-year vision. Your roadmap just has to be very, very clear, and the way you break down that strategy and strategic objectives have to be really clear as well, so that there is opportunity to celebrate achievements and celebrate growth across that 10 years. And you would do that for 5 years as well, but 5 years always feels like a nice number to me. It doesn't feel like too far away that it's almost not a priority, but equally it's far away enough that a lot can be achieved in that period of time as well. But it does depend how aspirational vision is.
Yeah. And then in that kind of last question, in that in your triangle of kind of a hierarchy, where would you fit things like OKRs in?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. So OKRs could take the place of your strategic objectives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your objectives and key results could replace that. So if within your organization you prefer to use OKRs, put them in instead of your strategic objectives.
Yeah. Right. Cool. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Any more questions? Let's move in. Right, let's see if we can guess the organisation. Is it possible to unmute everybody, Dev? Can we do a standard unmute?
Yes. I'm answering all your questions, but I forget to unmute myself.
Yeah.
I'm just peeking there. I'm saying, just wait a second. Yeah. Okay, I'll
You
mute
utilise the chat as well. You can utilise the chat.
Yeah.
Yes,
I can
that's
also
true.
allow everyone's cameras, actually.
Don't worry about cameras, only because we've not asked people if they're comfortable being on camera. So let's not worry about cameras.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I have unmuted everyone, basically. Yeah.
Lovely. Does someone want to test it?
Test.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. Shout out if you could guess the vision, the organisation that this vision aligns to make the best products on earth and to leave the world better than we found it. Any guesses? Anything? Has anything gone in the chat?
No, not yet.
No. Let's reveal.
Oh, somebody's put Matthew. Yeah, Matthew, you got in there. You got
Did
in
you
there,
do it, Matthew? You got Apple.
Points to you, Matthew, for that.
Well done. Now, I would say these visions, I believe, are more marketing-based visions rather than aspirational visions for internal use. That said, there is definitely something within this vision that you could shape a strategy from as well. Next one, to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Brackets, if you have a body, you are an athlete.
Nike.
Yes, well done. That's right.
Oh,
Next
Mike's
one.
still muted.
I'll sort it out.
He did put Nike as well in the chat.
Well done. That was quick off the mark. To give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together.
Google.
Facebook.
He said Google.
Yeah, it's Facebook.
Yeah.
Not far off though.
Matthew got, yeah.
Someone knows their visions. To create a better everyday life for the many people. It's a funny one, is that, for the many people?
Yeah, we've got IKEA from Matthew as well.
IKEA,
Matthew's
yeah.
good at this game.
Well done, you are.
Matthew he's really great at pub quizzes.
I can't type in chat. It's not allowing me to type in chat.
Oh, can you not,
can you,
Sarah?
Sarah? And are you knowing them all?
4 of them, but I didn't want to shout out at everyone.
Got to shout out. I wouldn't have guessed any of these, by the way, just if that makes anyone feel better. If I didn't know it, I wouldn't. I'm terrible with it. To be the most
Probably guess
trusted,
them if I had. I would confuse them.
yeah, get them mixed up.
These are
Yeah.
more local, actually, to us, Ruth, in Yorkshire.
They are.
That's
I
a
don't know
clue.
how many we've got that are Yorkshire based, but see if you can guess some of these. To be the most trusted provider of financial services in the UK. Yorkshire Building Society. So yeah, if you're not local, if you're not a Yorkshire person, you might not know these few. To explore the science and culture of image and sound technologies and their impact on our lives in ways that inspire, educate, and entertain. And I'll give you a clue. It is local in Bradford, and it's been shut for ages, but it's going to open soon.
Science and Media Museum. Oh yeah.
Yay! Who
Yeah.
said that?
Me. Paul.
Well done, Paul.
Well done, Paul. You're right. It was. That has been shut for a really long time, and it's a great place to take kids as well. So I'm hoping that opens soon. Creating a better future for all through education and training. I'll give you a clue. We mentioned this organisation, should I say, at the beginning in the first couple of slides.
Bradford College.
Yeah, well done, Sarah.
Well done, Sarah. That was a test just for you, and you passed it. Sarah works at Bradford College.
Well done. Okay. I do just want to caveat this because we will have people at directorate position as well as organisational position here on the call. Now, as we're going through the next few slides, as you're thinking, we're going to ask you to start thinking about a vision. And you can think about your vision for your personal circumstances at the moment. You can think about a vision for your team, your project. You can think about your vision for your directorate, or you can think about your vision for your organisation. When we talk about vision here, we're talking about it at organisational level, simply because in order to achieve organisational growth, there has to be that organisational unity. And more often than not, we see parts of that operating model of change, so that body of change, EAs, PMO, architects, project managers, transformation leads, change managers, anybody that sits within that body of change should be central in one directorate, one area. But often we see that separated out. We see BAs sitting within the IT team and reporting into the IT directorate. We see change managers sitting within the HR or people function and reporting into that directorate. And whilst there is absolutely alignment in that way, when we're not bringing them together as one operating model of change, there is that lack of alignment at organisational level, driving forward one unified strategy and vision. That's why we refer to vision at organisational level throughout these slides and when we're talking. But that's not to say that you cannot, and actually you should still have a vision to some extent to your team and your directorate that is aligned organisationally. As we go through these slides, when I ask you to start thinking about your vision, think about it at the level that is going to best benefit you right now. The vision is your why. It's your North Star, it's your guiding star, it's the purpose, etc. It's where you're heading. So I want you to just reflect for a couple of moments and think about what is your organisation, your department and your team vision, and where are you right now? So just as an example, think about a packaging firm, so a company that provides packaging. Their vision might be to become the leading provider of sustainable packaging solutions worldwide, driving innovation and eliminating plastic waste from the supply chain by 2030. So that's a 5-year vision. But in order to create that strategy and understand at that high level what needs to change and how you are going to map that journey of change so you know you're on a successful path month on month, year on year, you need to know your starting point. You need to know where you are right now. So the as is, currently only 15% of our products are sustainable, with 65% of materials still reliant on single-use plastics. We lack an innovation strategy and have minimal brand recognition in the sustainable market. You have to understand where you are right now. and where you're going as well. So I'm just going to pause for 2 minutes for you just to reflect on that and scribble down, if you've got a notebook in front of you or if you're doing it on your computer, just scribble down any words or thoughts in terms of your vision. Where are you going? Where are you right now? Personal, team, directorate, organisation, wherever that value is most realised right now for you. We'll move on, but please do keep scribbling, and if you've got any questions, give me a shout. Just pop your hand up and we'll pause. We're going to bring this to life now. Creating a vision. This is Paradise Islands. And I tell you what, if I could get on a plane and go there tomorrow, I'd be there. It looks lovely. Oh no, it's not Paradise Islands, it's Tranquil Escapes. Tranquil Escapes. So on this island, there are various forms of housing and shelter. There is fantastic food supplies, there's brilliant entertainment. It's a quiet sanctuary people want to visit, and therefore the island is a successful one. You can imagine for a moment that this is your island. You own this island. It's for commercial purposes. People holiday on the island. But it's very small and capacity is limited. In terms of your here and now, your as is it's a stunning paradise with pristine beaches and vibrant ecosystems, but its small size limits commercial growth and infrastructure is insufficient to support large-scale tourism. You are inundated with requests to visit the island, and you are wanting to expand so that you can bring more people to the island, make more money, and ultimately satisfy more people and see an increase in your bottom line. So what would that vision be? This could be your vision. It's to create the ultimate sanctuary where community and tranquility coexist, offering an experience so vibrant, people never want to leave. Sorry, so vibrant, people want to visit, and so peaceful, they never want to leave. So you know where you are right now, and actually it's not a bad place, but you've reached your capacity. You can't go any further, and you have aspirations to go further. So how do you achieve your vision? How do you go from this island to this? You do it by defining your strategy and creating a portfolio that is aligned to the vision. What would that look like? So the first 2 steps in this process are all about understanding your as-is and creating that vision. And this is about your proactive change. I will just reinforce that. If you are aware of reactive change that could come down the line, you can capture it within. As we go through this process, think about capturing it within or capture it as risks. So step 1, understand your as-is. What are your problems, gaps, weaknesses, concerns? What is preventing you from achieving more? What is frustrating the organisation, the people within the organisation, the leadership team? What are the opportunities, the strengths, and what are you really great at, and what do you want to be really great at? Make sure you carry out the research. Don't ever rush your as-is. Talk to people, leaders, employees, customers, analyse current performance data, and explore the competition. Rushing this means you will probably get it wrong. One of the first things some organisations will do when understanding their as-is is they'll go straight to process documentation and process maps. But the reality is the vast majority of processes that are mapped out are not the processes that are being followed in reality, because those that are experts within the processes, those on the ground, have figured out better ways of doing it, or figured out ways that can make it more efficient. Or are unintentionally skipping steps that are actually really important, which is causing problems potentially. But look at what is actually happening, not just what the organisation said should be happening by process maps, etc. And when you are very clear on your as-is, where are you right now? Redo process maps. Redo all your policy documentation, etc. Redo that if you have to, so that your current as-is is absolutely reflective officially in terms of what is actually happening. Step 2, understand your why. Know why your organisation exists. What is its purpose? What impact do you have on customers, industries, communities? And what impact do you want to have? What are your values? The genuine values, not the things stuck up on the wall, but what are the actual values of your organisation that drives forward the purpose and why you exist? And think about where you are right now, where is it different to where you actually want to be? And capture where you want to be in a realistic time frame that will be validated as you go through and look at change and projects. But where do you want to be in 5 years' time? If you want to go beyond that, where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Understand where you are right now and capture and create, a as-is a statement, whether it's a problem statement, an as-is statement in terms of opportunity and problem, whereas it's a challenge-based statement, and then create your vision. You've got your starting point, you've got your end point. It's like when you put into your Google Maps, you get in the car and you put into the Google Maps where you're going. And I don't know about you, but I've had problems before when I've been out of signal and I've put in my destination, and I know my destination should only be an hour away, but my signal thinks that I'm somewhere else. And so it tells me I'm 3 hours away or 20 minutes away. And if you get your as-is wrong, you get your journey wrong and you get your timeframes wrong, you lose credibility, you ruin trust, and the confidence drops. You have to take that time. You have to take the time for my data to catch up, to find out where I truly am right now, so that journey from where I am now to where I'm going is accurate and correct. Once you're clear on your as-is and your future state, your vision, then we can move into strategy. Any questions? Right, strategy, connecting a vision to a strategy. So we're going to stick with this example of tranquil escapes. The vision is to create the ultimate sanctuary where community and tranquility coexist, offering an experience so vibrant people want to visit and so peaceful they never want to leave. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But how do we go from there, from that little island, to this big, bustling, very busy island indeed? We know the as-is, we know the vision. The next step is to create that strategy. Included within the strategy is mapping current to future state. What needs to be different at that high level, and we're not getting into the detail at this point, it's the high level changes that we know we need to make to go from as-is to vision. We're not analysing the change, we're not going into significant detail at that point, it's just mapping that journey of change. Then we understand what good would look like at each point on that journey of change. And that's when we can start creating those strategic objectives, or the OKRs. If you use OKRs rather than strategic objectives, whatever it is that you use in order to measure success and to measure progression, that's what we're doing here at this point. And then we're defining the change in detail. So analyse the gap. How far are you right now from your vision, and agree that journey of travel. Think about the changes that need to take place and what these changes will mean organisationally when you get into that defining the change. Consider, when thinking about your change and the impacts, consider particularly these 3 pillars: people, process, and technology. The majority of changes you need to make will fall into one of those. Many of them will go across more than one. but it's people, process, technology. Once you know how far you need to travel and the key changes you need to make, that can be developed into a map or a blueprint or a journey, whatever you want to call it. And that can be followed from where you are now to your destination. But it's a long journey. We're talking probably at least 5 years. If it's organisational vision, it will be less probably if it's team, director or personal vision. So you need to know that you're on track, that you're making the right changes, that the changes are giving you, the right outputs, the right outcomes that you need to move along that journey, that metaphorical journey. It's your strategic objectives or your OKRs that allow you to map your journey of success. It's the markers letting you know you're on track and letting you know when you've reached your destination, or letting you know you've not hit the mark. And if you haven't hit the mark because you've not achieved an objective, what does that mean? What's the impact of that? How do you replan? Can you get it back on track, or do things need to be overall delayed? It gives you that sense check of your growth and your development. So in order to bring this again back to our example of tranquil escapes of our small island to our big, bustling, busy, commercial and highly profitable island, what would our strategy look like? So that high level change that would be needed. We need to expand infrastructure capacity. We need more land. We need to improve the hospitality services. We need to develop unique attractions and activities that will attract in themselves people to the island. And we need to increase annual visitor numbers. If we don't make all those changes, the island won't be a success, the vision won't be realised. So what does that look like in terms of strategic objectives? So expand infrastructure. And you'll see here, these are measurable. We're making them time bound, and we're putting numbers against them so we can actually tell when we've achieved the particular objective that we've set ourselves. So expand infrastructure capacity. Increase the island's accommodation capacity by 50% by 2030, adding 200 high-end resort rooms and eco-lodges. Upgrade transportation facilities such as airports, docks, internal roads to handle 300,000 visitors annually by 2034. And then when we get into enhanced hospitality services, what do we need to do there in terms of the strategic objectives? What does success look like for hospitality services? Build and operationalise 5 new high-quality restaurants and bars by 2026, each earning a customer satisfaction rating of 90% or higher. I think we've been a bit ambitious with this. I'm not sure we'd do that in a year, but it gets the point across. Launch a luxury spa and wellness centre by 2027, targeting at least 75% occupancy during peak season. Open 3 new island tours and water sport activities, such as snorkeling, scuba diving, kayaking by 2028, with at least 60% of visitors engaging in these experiences. Construct 2 world-class beaches and recreational zones by 2029, with the goal of attracting 150,000 visitors annually for these attractions. And grow annual visitors to the Isle by 8% each year, reaching 350,000 visitors by 2034, with a focus on ecotourism and family-friendly vacations. So you can see we're growing, we're enhancing hospitality and attraction opportunities in parallel with building out that infrastructure and increasing visitor numbers. So what are the programmes that would be needed? We'd need an infrastructure expansion programme, hospitality and service excellence programme, attractions and experience enhancement programme, and visitor growth and marketing programme. And sitting within that will be various projects, as you can see here. So we've broken it down from, we've got the vision, we've understood the high level change, we've understood what success would look like against that high level change, and we've shaped it into a programme of work, the projects within that programme, and this together becomes a portfolio. It brings it to life, but bear in mind it is theoretical. So of course, there are elements of this that I'm not even sure you can increase expansion of an island in the middle of the ocean, but let's pretend we can. So you can see here the projects that would sit in it. So for example, hospitality and service excellence. There'll be a culinary and dining experience, a spa and wellness centre construction, and staff training and service excellence. And then if we bring it into this pyramid, this visual, we can see here the vision. We can see the strategy and the strategic objectives sitting within that. And this together would probably come into a lovely visual that you create for your strategy. And the change, what does this mean to the change to the people that are working on the island, to the people that live around the island, those visiting the island? Some people won't like this, they won't be happy with it. Some quite liked the fact that it was a very small island, very exclusive island, and now more people can join. So what does that mean? How we can make sure we get those people on board? And then how do we oversee the projects and programs, all four as a minimum, to make sure they deliver what they should, when they should, to be that vehicle of change, to achieve the strategy and objectives, and ultimately to take you to that island and that vision. It's a massive risk. If it all goes wrong, you could end up with a deserted island with half-built hotels and goodness knows what sitting in the middle of the ocean. So it's a big risk and it has to be managed very carefully, as is any vision within an organisation. Now pause for a moment and think back to your vision. So in part one, we thought about what is your vision, team, personal, director, organisation, and what changes are needed to go from where you are now to where you will be. Now have a think about how you will map that success. So what are the changes and how will you know when you achieve them? What does success look like for you? And can you think of projects that will deliver the change and anything that can go wrong? So I'm just going to pause for 2 minutes again, just for you to reflect on that a little bit. And if you've got any questions, feel free to raise them. Assuming no more questions, but do shout up or stick in the chat if you do. Okay, so let's deliver it. How do we deliver that strategy? So we've got our projects sitting within our programs. I'm going to pause now and we're going to move to PMO. Can I just see, I'm just going to look at my other screen, a show of hands if you know what PMO is all about, if you've worked within a PMO, experienced a PMO, sat alongside.
We've got.
Brilliant.
Oh yeah. I was going to say I thought we had a question then, but you've just answered one.
It's pretty much
a lot of questions.
Everybody. Yeah, suddenly a lot of questions there, Jen. Said something controversial. Yeah, so pretty much everybody has experienced a PMO. Now, I would assume you'll have either experienced one or the other, or both. Either a PMO that drives you absolutely bonkers because they're bureaucratic and frustrating and they focus predominantly on whether or not you've put a dot or a dash in the date format rather than whether you're actually delivering your project. And that can happen. We've all, as a PMO specialist, I've worked in PMOs like that. And when I've done project management, I've experienced PMOs like that. It's really hard work when the processes are like that. It's hard work for those within the PMO and it's hard work for those in the wider change team. When we talk about PMO, we talk about PMO being an absolute enabler. So if you think about that PMO right there, smack bang in the middle of the pyramid, they're reporting, they're overseeing down and giving assurance down, and they're reporting up. And every project knows that they're a piece in a wider jigsaw of change. Therefore, they understand why they need to complete a report in that particular format because it's being rolled up. They understand why, if they've got a problem, they need to escalate that. And there's no shame on your reds and your ambers. Actually, let's welcome those. Let's have those conversations. Let's be clear and transparent. It is your air traffic control of change. And it's absolutely crucial if you want to deliver effective change. Absolutely crucial. If you've got a large number of projects sitting on your change portfolio, you must have a PMO. It doesn't have to be called a PMO. We've seen it called strategy office, transformation team, transformation office, change administrator, anything. Change office, we've seen it being change office. It can be anything you want to call it, as long as the principles of what it does remain aligned to an air traffic control centre, ultimately. So how does a PMO bring all of this together? Because ultimately, And Katie, you touched on it in not so many words, but basically that creating that hierarchy and understanding your vision, your strategy, your change, your projects, your programs from a proactive perspective, that's the easy bit, really. Keeping them on track and keeping and maintaining that golden thread when challenges come in, when things slip, when unknowns raise their heads, when you crash into issues or significant risks, keeping it on track, that's when your air traffic control, your PMO really, really comes into its own. That's what maintains that golden thread. So a PMO is about making change simple. A PMO makes lives easier for everybody that works within that operating model of change. They keep clear goals that are aligned, making sure all projects stay connected to the overall objectives. It provides the big picture view, that bird's eye view, that holistic perspective. It makes processes significantly easier because they're there, they're efficient. You just follow the process. It's not about creating anything from scratch. There's common language and terminology, so everybody knows what they mean when they say baseline, or that's red, or we've slipped there, or we need to re-baseline, or when we say a risk or an issue or a dependency, we all know what we mean. It's common language across the board. And the principle that sits behind that language or terminology is the same. We understand the purpose for every single process. And it's about supporting better outcomes. So complex change is simplified. I will always say when we go into a PMO to bring fixes or enhancements, we will look to challenge every single process within it and simplify that process as much as we possibly can. And where possible, remove duplication as well. It's there to make change simple, to make change easy, to bring clarity and to bring confidence. Okay, so if we think about this programme and these projects, the PMO, the Portfolio Management Office, protects and sits around all of our programmes and projects, reporting into the wider change vision. What would happen to Tranquil Escapes without a PMO? So let's jump forward 5 years. It's no surprise that there will be cost challenges, resource frustrations, that there's the risk of strategic drift and new regulatory changes, so the reactive change coming in left field and communication breakdown. These are all risks that every single project, programme, portfolio will face. And there is a choice. Are you going to control those risks to prevent them becoming issues? Or are those risks going to develop a life of their own and ultimately hinder and prevent success as a portfolio? If Tranquil Escapes did not have a PMO, these risks would all turn into issues. We would have cost overruns. We would have resource shortages. There would be strategic drift because new ideas would come in and slowly that golden thread would just start to, we'd drop a stitch and drop a stitch and drop a stitch until it didn't exist at all. Because there's a new idea, well, rather than one spa, what about if we did 2 spas? Oh, well, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's bring 2 spas in without considering the cost, without considering the resource shortages, without considering the result that would have on infrastructure and space, etc. And what about those new regulations that come in that say you cannot employ people of a particular age, or you cannot employ people for a longer period of time than X, Y, and Z, or new regulations around safety when flying people in to the island? When those new regulations come in, you need to be able to align with them. You need to be able to absorb that reactive change. You can't do that without being fully informed about what's happening, when, and by who, and therefore understanding the impact that regulatory change has had. And communication would break down. If you think of PMO being that umbrella that oversees all of the programmes and projects, they keep that communication together. They make sure the projects and programmes are talking to each other. They connect the dots of that project needs to be speaking to that project. Are you talking? No, well, let me introduce you. Let's keep that communication strong. Communicating up towards your vision, communicating down to your projects. That communication flow is continually happening. And without it, there'll be communication breakdown. The very likely consequences of this would be key projects are delayed, incomplete, or abandoned altogether because you run out of money. The vision therefore remains unfulfilled with declining visitor interest. And there's a poor visitor experience, which damages the island's reputation. So not only have you not achieved your vision, you're in a worse place than your original as-is was. With a PMO or a strategy office or a change office, whatever you would prefer to call it, costs will still be a risk. Resource, strategic alignment will all be a risk. Communication will all still be a risk. But with a PMO, the right processes are in place to manage those costs. So it's very clear what we can spend, where we can spend it, and when we can spend it. And we're tracking actual versus forecast. So when there is an increase against cost or a threaten, or the budget and the costs are threatened by a new strategic suggestion, there is that informed decision about what will this do? And therefore, can we get more money? Can we deprioritize something else? Or do we need to stick with what we originally said? We're very clear about how many people there are and where they need to be and when, so that we're very clearly resourcing, optimizing people across all of the projects and the programs. There isn't a significant pull on any individual or team. It is continually strategically aligned. That is the golden thread. There is full compliance, so when those regulatory and reactive changes hit, we absorb them because success is hindering on absorbing them and complying with them. And ultimately, there is control and oversight. Therefore, projects are on track and remain within budget. Visitor experience is consistently aligned with a high-end vision, and the vision remains in sight and is achieved. So those risks can't be avoided. A PMO doesn't take away the risk, it manages them, it controls them, it keeps everything on track. Now, I'm going to go through these slides for the next 5 minutes, and then I'm going to hand over to Ben to really bring this to life in terms of how you can manage this from a technical perspective, because spreadsheets and PowerPoint will only take you so far within your portfolio. And when we talk about efficiencies and really making the most of that control and oversight, the best thing you can do is bring in something called a PPM tool, Project Portfolio Management Tool. And that might be a short-term vision or a long-term vision, but we will hand over to Ben shortly to talk you through that. But how do we build a PMO for success? This is a project in its own right. I'm just going to make that really clear. If you don't currently have a PMO and you want to bring in a form of PMO, or you want to enhance your PMO from being tactical into, which can be seen as policing and bureaucratic, into the space of strategic, which is what we've talked about today, it must be managed as a project within its own right in order to deliver what you want within that PMO and bring in the right stakeholders and people to be involved. So define the purpose, the vision, and the objectives of what you're looking to achieve with the implementation or enhancement of your PMO. Who needs to be in that PMO? So design the function. It's like the operating model. What does that function look like? What are the roles within that function? What are the processes within that function? Think about the tools and technology that will enable the delivery of that function and make the processes as efficient as possible, therefore reducing the amount of people that you need in there and therefore bringing down your overheads. And then you embed the PMO. So then you go into delivery. So if you imagine this in itself as a project life cycle, you would have the first two probably in design and planning, and then you move into implementation and delivery. So defining the purpose, the vision, and the objectives. Design the function, roles, and processes. Look at what tools and technology will enable those processes and better utilise your roles, and then move into embedding. Communication is absolutely vital here. You want to make sure you have as much buy-in as possible across your organisation. So there's a big branding or rebranding, if you already have a PMO piece, that is needed within your PMO. Ensure your PMO is championed at board level. and that they are the gatekeeper of the vision and the strategy. Make sure you've got that championing of your PMO at a senior level as you can. Be clear on who needs to be engaged and informed, when and how. And if training is needed, will this new function offer internal opportunities to team members? So will you be able to bring in people from the wider organisation, train them up and offer them a role within the PMO? Culturally, it's always better to try and do that rather than go outwards in order to do that. If you don't have any PMO capability already within your organisation, you could temporarily bring somebody in who can do some upskilling, or you can bring somebody in who is very experienced, but then build the team. Culturally, it's just a really nice way of offering opportunities to those within your organisation already. And you will find that if people naturally possess competencies such as being very organised, being very proactive, they figure out what could go wrong and are the first to jump in and try and prevent it from happening. They look at all different opportunities to be innovative and find new ways of working. If you have people already within your organisation, they will probably love a career within PMO and also be very, very good at it with the right training and upskilling as well. So look at how you can utilise people internally. But think very, very, really do that rebranding piece if you've already got a PMO. And if you haven't got one, get sales out there, do showcases, bring the value, be very outcome focused, sorry. Think about why the PMO exists and focus on the value as opposed to the detailed processes when communicating outwards to the wider organisation. Now, what I've put in here, because we will share the slides after the session for you, is an example of a project life cycle and a programme life cycle. And also what could be included within that in terms of outcomes and outputs. So we talk about understand, shape, deliver, embed. When we bring in a life cycle within an organisation, this tends to be the process that we advocate for. It starts with the change, it ends with the change. Understand the change, then shape your programme and your projects, then move into delivery, and then move into embedding the change. The difference with the programme life cycle is that you remain within delivery for quite a long time as your projects go through individually that shape, deliver and embed phase. And then we wanted to share with you some detail that sits behind that. So what is the value of each phase and what are the key outputs? So the processes or the templates that are really useful within each phase in order to get the best out of that and to really protect your programs and projects and keep them connected to that golden thread. So when we share these slides, feel free to reflect and think about your project life cycle, if you've got one, or what you could bring in and how you can utilise these slides to help you shape that life cycle. Now, before I hand over to Ben, I'm just going to pause. Has anybody got any questions? No? Lovely. Well, in that case, I'm going to hand you over to the very capable hands of Ben from Kivue to talk you through the PPM tool that is Perform and how you can utilise Perform or a PPM tool generally in order to bring that oversight and control to your portfolios. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Ruth. Firstly, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay, good. So yes, I'll take you onto our system Kivue Perform, and I'll give you a bit of a view of some of the ways that you would track and use a tool like ours in order to sort of maintain control over the portfolio, identify things that might be going wrong, and basically just continue to be able to manage it all effectively. Before I do so, I will give you a little bit of background on us as a business. So Kivue is about 10 years old. Our background is portfolio delivery. So the business was founded by two people who had been working in portfolio delivery for years and years and years. And the reason that they decided that they wanted to develop a PPM tool of sorts for themselves was largely down to the fact that they'd worked with lots and lots of different tools, which were brilliant in many ways, but they were, to be honest, they were sort of overly complex, and as a result of that, didn't really get used. So when building Kivue Perform, we decided that there were two things that were absolute musts, and those were that anybody should be able to use it, whether it was a trained project manager or whether it was somebody who'd started in a junior project manager role in the last week or so. They should be able to complete a report on Kivue Perform, because the reality is that those people are, it's very important that they are inputting data as well. So it was designed to be straightforward enough that anybody can use it. And the second sort of core principle, if you like, was that all of the data should automatically roll up and give you a true portfolio level view of what is going on. That was something that we sort of found that a lot of other tools didn't necessarily do that well. But what I will do is I'll take you on to the system now. We can have a quick look at what it would like, what it would look like. We've got some data in the system for Tranquil Escapes, so it's all quite relevant. So if I can steal the screen, please.
Yes, of course. I'll stop sharing then, and then you feel free to share.
Yeah, fantastic. So, can we all see this?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is Kivue Perform. I don't know whether some of you may have worked with PPM tools in the past, but this is probably fairly standard. You've got your different portfolios on this page. You have a view of where any program or project that sits within that program is, and the idea is that it's very visual. You know where you are roughly by just having a look at this, and you can sort of see those projects that might need a little bit of attention. So behind these tiles sits information that is inputted on a weekly or monthly basis, whatever any client's reporting cadence is. So the information that sits behind the tile is all of the things that you might be tracking, be that risks, issues, and anything that, well, all the things that you referenced before, Ruth. What I will do, just in line with what we are talking about today, is show you what this might look like for Tranquil Escapes. So this is a portfolio that we built in for Tranquil Escapes. You've got your 4 different programs. So you've got your infrastructure expansion, you've got your hospitality service and service excellence program, you've got your attractions and experience enhancement program, and visitor growth and marketing. Within those, you have work streams, so different projects. So you can see those by clicking on here. It will show you the program tile, and then underneath sit the work streams which feed up into that program. On a monthly or weekly basis, the project manager would report into the system, and that fills this with color and information. And I'll take you through some of the views. So I've already shown you this one, actually. We can skip straight to this. So we have a lot of views in the system which allow you to, you can view the data that's inputted in lots and lots of different ways. And that can be used to highlight particular issues that need dealing with. This here is your portfolio timeline. So you can see when your portfolio of projects are all due to be starting and ending, and this is all lit up so that you have an idea of what RAG statuses are across the programs. You can then delve into a bit more information. So by clicking on these, you could go through to the sustainability and environmental infrastructure program or project, sorry. And in a normal situation, this would be full of data. So you can use lots of different views and click through them. There you can drill down from the portfolio level views into the actual detail. But the idea of the system is that it highlights at that portfolio level anything that then might need discussing. You can create personalized reports or customized reports. So something like this you would create, and the idea of this is, again, that it highlights, you know, key milestones that are slipping, or and if you're tracking costs, you track it in here, and you would look at you'd see this on a monthly basis. Again, it's designed to be visual, not wordy. The exec team should be able to sort of dissect the information within, you know, 5 minutes, rather than being presented with a 50-page PowerPoint pack, which in reality they may well not read. But there's lots of different dashboards in here. I'm not going to go through them all today. I will go through a couple of others, but if off the back of this anybody would like to have a deeper look at Kivue Perform and how it might be able to support, I'd be very, very happy to have a call with anyone. Back to the sort of portfolio level insights. So this here is our portfolio overview. So what you're looking at is your different portfolios on the top left hand side here. What are the RAG statuses per portfolio? You can click through these and it will take you through to the individual programs or projects that sit within them. You've got a risk and issue heat map down here. So this gives you, or whoever is looking at this, the ability to say, okay, how many risks do we have with a score greater than 15? We've got 23. And what are the RAG statuses? So if they want to have a look at any project which has a RAG status that is red and has a risk score, has a risk with a score between 16 and 20, they can click on this tile here, and that then takes them through to the risk register. And I'll show you the risk register quickly, and how that all works. And it's loading up. Actually, whilst that is happening, the other thing that you have in a system like ours is you have the ability to create as many reports as you like, which sort of sit there in the background. And the idea of this is, I think probably some people on the call will be able to relate to when I say, you know, a lot of people probably spend more hours than they should on a weekly basis reporting on projects. That, I think, more often than not is in PowerPoint. It's amazing, you know, how many people are using still Excel and PowerPoint. And, you know, they may well spend 2 or 3 hours on a weekly basis preparing stuff which they might send to their PMO for them to then transfer it to something else and create a big PowerPoint pack which gets sent to the exec team. With a system like ours, you are able to do it genuinely at the click of a button. You are purely sort of reliant on a project manager inputting the data, or anyone who is inputting the data at the sort of bottom level. And once that has been done, you can use the system to generate a report literally in seconds. So, for instance, this here is a strategic program highlight report that we have built, and we've got in here is just a template. So you build a report once, it sits there as a template, and it can be used whenever you want. So if I want to put a report on everything in the strategic portfolio and everything within Tranquil Escapes, I just select those projects or programs and I click this, and it automatically creates me a report that can then be exported and sent on to whoever and you select the data that you want to show here, whether that's RAG status or which stage it's in, exec highlights. You can pull through whichever information from the system that you like. So there is a huge amount that you can do on the system. As I've said, I haven't gone into too much detail. I'm conscious of time, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of what we do. Ruth, I'm conscious of time. I don't know whether we've got time for any questions now, or is it best that I give an email address for anyone that might want to ask some questions or have another look?
No, go ahead. I've probably got 30 seconds at the end of this just to wrap up, so we do have time for questions.
Fab. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got one.
Sorry.
And I'm just going to allow his mic. Yes, Sean, you can speak now.
Hi, Ben. Just a quick question on this. How the capability wise, so for example, could you link this to another project? And I'm thinking dependency wise. So if you were dependent on me and my project was delayed by 3 months, could it link into that and yours goes automatically red because mine's been delayed, so all your dates get pushed out? Or would that still rely on me communicating to you individually that mine's been slipped?
Thank you. So was it Mike?
Sean.
Sean, sorry, Sean. Thank you, Sean. It would rely on you actually communicating. So we do have a dependency module within this, but it doesn't mean that every milestone, for instance, in the program or project that was dependent on yours, would automatically get pushed back, and the RAG status is all entered manually. So yeah, there's no automation there. It would rely on you communicating that.
Thank you. Cheers.
Am I right in
anybody-
saying? Sorry, Ben.
Ruth.
I was just going to say, am I right in saying though that at that portfolio level it would report up, and therefore at PMO level it would be very clear to the PMO where one dependency had impacted another to enable that conversation to happen. So if the project manager didn't pick up with that project, the PMO would.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yes, it would report up at that level. Are there any other questions for now?
But we will share your email address. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very, very much for having me, and it's been a really, really interesting session. It's been great.
Thanks, Ben. Really pleased you could join us. Right, I'm just going to wrap up in the next couple of minutes. Bear with me. Oh, can you see my slides okay?
We can.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Jem. So after the session, as I mentioned, we will send details for Ben and his colleague Andy, so that if you've got any questions around the PPM tool, please do reach out to them. More than happy to speak to you. And we'll share my email address and booking link and Jen's as well. So you're more than welcome to get in touch if you've got any questions off the back of anything we've discussed today. But we will also be sharing with you a landing page that gives you access to 4 templates that will get you started if you are at the beginning of this strategic journey or want to validate anything. So we'll give you a workshop guidance template. This is a guide to follow in order to understand your as-is, your vision, and then shape that into change and projects. It is a few workshops that you would need to do that across, but it is some guidance there to help you. We're also giving you a business case template so that you can start to shape your projects and programs. A simple, very simple status report template. So if at the moment you need a quick win because you've got some projects and programs and you need to start tracking how they're doing, please utilize that. It's a very simple, straightforward template for people to use to start reporting on progress. And also a project workbook. And in that project workbook, you've got a project plan in Excel, some risks and dependencies tab, and also a implementation or prepare for go live tab as well. So please do have a look at those. And if you've got any questions at all, feel free to reach out to any one of us from Prospect Change or Kivue. Very, very happy to talk to you. And the next session is the 13th of February, where we're going to go into more detail around how to build and establish a new PMO function. And events are going to be delivered monthly by Prospect Change throughout 2025, all related to PMO projects, change, strategy, etc. So if you're not already, do follow us on LinkedIn on our Prospect Change page, and then you'll see new posts when we put new events live as well. But we will reach out to you and let you know if we've got your email address when these events will be happening. So you can book onto any that you will find interesting. And that just leaves me to say thank you so much for joining us. Really, really enjoyed talking to you all today. Really appreciate all the questions and the engagement. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, well, I think we are finishing just on time. It's just past, isn't it? So I will leave it there. But thank you very much, everybody, and have a really wonderful rest of the day and fantastic weekend when it finally gets started. Thanks so much, all.
Thanks very much.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.